Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. It's a joy to be joined by Keri Ingraham, Senior Fellow Director for the American Center for Transforming Education over at the Discovery Institute. Now, I've actually known of Dr. Ingraham for a while because back when I ran Chalkboard Review, I was really big into trades education, otherwise known as the thing that was hidden from me and the reason I didn't become an electrician. If I would have known more about great, high-quality, industry-specific education, probably wouldn't be doing this today, and I'd be making a lot more than I am. Dr. Ingraham, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, my pleasure.
So you're talking a little bit more these days about industry-specific high schools. This sounds like something that should be a really in-the-weeds policy discussion, but it really syncs up a lot more with kind of the average American than maybe some of the people on Capitol Hill think. Break it down for us a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk about this because there's a growing demand for alternatives to a traditional four-year college education. What we're seeing is less parents want to send their child off to a four-year college. The Wall Street Journal put out data last year that showed nearly half of parents would prefer not to send their child right after high school to a four-year university if there was no obstacles, regardless of financial. They simply just don't want to. And
That's a big deal. I'm
that's a
sorry, I don't
huge
mean
deal.
just to interject to say that even if I could just send them off to any state university, any four-year school for a bachelor's degree, I don't really think that's worthwhile. That's a real sharp decline from when I was told either you go to get a four-year degree or you're going to be homeless.
Yes, definitely. And it's not just parents. So, that same Wall Street Journal study last year also found that two-thirds of high school students believe they'll be just fine without college. So, they're not interested in going, they don't see the value. And a quarter of those students, though, can't name a career that they would even consider going into. And so, we've got to look at doing something to expose students while they're in high school two different career fields, give them skills, give them experience so that when they exit high school and they don't go on to college, they have an on ramp to these high demand, high growth career fields, many of which do not require a college degree. And so helping students be prepared, and the ROI of college is plummeting. There's such a mismatch in these degrees today versus our technology advanced workforce and what those needs are.
Again, you're talking to a guy with a former science education degree. How many degrees these days have nothing to do with what you actually end up doing for the rest of your life? You're familiar with the pipeline terminology in education, right? Everything's a
Yes.
pipeline, the school
Mhm.
to prison pipeline, the bachelor's degree to success pipeline, the high school to debt pipeline, all of these various pipelines. I think that it's probably more useful as an analogy to describe things as an interstate. You are on this road and you're going somewhere. There may be exits, there may be interchanges, but right now I'm not seeing a lot of interstates through these universities towards a career that you start out heading towards. So you want to become some kind of an accountant. You feel like, well, I've got to do a business degree. Now I'm taking a bunch of classes that have nothing to do with this business degree. Maybe I don't want to do this in the first place. Why is everyone else really satisfied with degrees that don't have anything to do with what I'm doing? It really is a lot of confusion that costs a lot to go through. Confusion is not exactly supposed to be something really expensive, and it seems to be the most expensive thing a young American person can deal with right now.
Yes, and employers are starting to recognize that more and more employers are eliminating that bachelor degree requirement for employment eligibility. They're saying we'd rather have someone with skills, experience, industry specific knowledge than somebody that simply has this four-year degree, which in many cases is not applicable to the demands of that industry and what their job will entail.
Nor rigorous, right? I mean, you're seeing so many different universities exposed for professors riddled with confirmed acts of plagiarism, acts of simply just passing students through the mill and just rubber stamping a grade. We're seeing the entitlement structure. And by the way, not even in a political sense, the entitlement of I am going to this university and I am giving you money, therefore give me my degree, has eroded any institutional trust, not just from the private sector in our universities, as we talked about, but from the business sector as well. Why would I trust your degree from ABC University out here in XYZ state because you have a liberal arts degree, knowing that it may not prepare you at all to work in this job where I've got a series of skills I need you to be up and up on?
Yes, so much you said there, absolutely spot on.
Sorry, I don't mean to, hit you with a fire hose full of water there.
One of the things that I'm really excited about, and I'm talking to different governors, policymakers in different states, entrepreneurs who recognize that we need to grow the supply of opportunities for high school students to be equipped for these fields that don't require the college degree. I want to tell you about an example up in Michigan. Uh, Dick DeVos founded this school 15 years ago. So, front runner, very innovative. He founded a public charter school open to any student in the state, tuition free, and it's called the West Michigan Aviation Academy.
Yep, know it very well.
What Dick found was that the average American salary is under $60,000, but yet the average pilot salary is over $180,000 per year. That's a $128,000 difference. And it's a field that has a shortage of pilots in North America. And it doesn't require a college degree. So, how could we strategically meet that shortage as well as give kids just exposure to a field that's going to excite them, motivate them? And we need that in high school. Absenteeism is at an all time high. Kids are disengaged. They don't see the relevance of what they're learning. But bringing in choice, bringing in these innovative different types of schools and letting students get excited, motivated, they're going to have all of their core academic subjects as well. But they're able to, in these schools, have higher expectations on those academics in order to allow kids to have the opportunity to do things like learn to fly an airplane. If you're not doing your English homework, we're not going to trust you to go up and fly solo. And so reinventing high school in a way that makes sense. And again, these students graduate, they're completely prepared for an on-ramp to become a licensed pilot, but there's many other things at this school. They have biomedical, over 20 engineering courses a year are offered. Build a plane course. So if they want to go into the actual mechanics and learn that, maybe they're not going to be a pilot, but know how to work on an aircraft. Huge demand for that in the field. And so giving kids all of these exposures and opportunities, and we need more of these schools, not just aviation, but across industries, things like AI, entrepreneurship, business. Why not let students get an on ramp there where a 4-year degree may not be necessary and may hinder their opportunity to be successful post high school?
Right. One of the things that I believe is uh, something I don't think that's talked about in this conversation that we're talking, there's a lot of innovative conversation here, right? We're innovating, we're making high school new and different and interesting. And it sounds like something that's brand new. And you get a lot of the industry buzzwords that are thrown in, the various fields that people can hop into. And it sounds very high tech and cutting edge, but it's a really old idea. So, as you remember in the book Johnny Tremain, at a certain age, young men in New England were expected to go and pick up a trade. And they, as an apprentice, would work alongside a master. In this Johnny Tremain's case, he was to be a silversmith. There are many different cultures throughout history who have centuries of experience in when an individual reaches adolescence, they partner up with some type of a master in a trade, in a field, something that benefits the community, something that is active in industry and the economy, however you want to frame it. And it is a phenomenal means of not only maturing the young person to adulthood, not only showing them the responsibilities and the intricacies beyond the early 2000s aughts depiction of careers as all being these fun, cartoonish landscapes, but actually being something that is a lifelong investment. And it's something that the American culture forsook. I don't think for malicious reasons of the corporate education sphere sought just to manufacture individuals, but I do think that we have perhaps tossed aside what is useful for what is expedient. And now to see Americans finally moving back towards the apprentice model of education, which is something that I've just been obsessed with. I make no bones about it because it's worked so much throughout human civilization. It's not something that requires you to buy into something as much as it requires people to consider all of the success cases, not just in this DeVos Aviation School. Also, although this isn't for high school students, Indiana has the Lift Academy, which is operated, I believe, by Republic Airways. There's a lot of places around the country in the trades that are doing this. The obstacles come from this idea, though, that we have to maintain normal avenues of education as the standard. And if you don't have the classic liberal arts high school experience, well, then it's just not American education. And I think that's going to be the Achilles heel of the movement for at least a decade longer, probably more.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you touch on Johnny Tremaine and just helping young men, particularly, see how they can contribute to society and have meaning and purpose in their life.
Hopefully
David,
without getting third-degree burns from molten silver, but, important to try your best.
yes, David Bonson wrote an excellent book a couple years ago called Full Time Work and the Meaning of Life. And he just makes the case that we were created to be productive, and that there is inherent value and purpose in work, and work is good.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're created in the image of the creator, one might think that industrious creation is something natural to all humanity.
Trouble comes. And so there is so many benefits to the individual as well as society, as well as to our future workforce of our country to set kids up for success, expose them to things, innovate this high school model. And not all schools need to become industry specific high schools, but they can't just be the exception. We need to grow more and more. And there's a great opportunity for the business community to come in and say, hey, I want to help put my fingerprints on future employees for my company.
And the trades have
By
been doing this just
investing.
wonderfully. I mean, it's incredible the number of
Absolutely.
trade programs that I would hear my students, oh, I'm going to work at this HVAC group over the summer before I come back to school. They're giving me all of the experience, the necessary bits and bobs that come with this. And then when I'm done with this particular program, I now have some type of advancement that gets me closer towards an associate's degree or towards some kind of certification.
Absolutely. Great point.
Dr. Keri Ingraham, again, over from the Discovery Institute. Love your work. Thank you so much for dropping by and talking about this with us a little bit today.
Thanks, Tony.
We'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.